So, welcome everyone to Anything Could Be on a Hook. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Alyssa.
And Miss Alyssa, what do we have on the hook today?
On the hook today is TV shows that you have probably forgot about. Not just TV shows, cartoons.
Cartoons!
Cartoon shows. Cartoons! Cartoons you may have not remembered.
Yes, we have a wide array here. I know that every news outlet, by the way, there's a clay doll in chat for anybody that wants it. Anybody that has looked at lists of these, I'm sure you have been reminded of some great bops from cartoons.
That's the bop. Kids bop.
I know I've looked at some of these lists and they have ones that I completely forgot that I loved, like The Fairly Odd Parents, which still has episodes coming out, or
Yes.
SpongeBob, which is still running. Jimmy Neutron. All of these forgotten relic shows that no one remembers. So we're going to go over shows that hopefully you actually forgot that you loved. Just a reminder, we do this show live over on Twitch every Thursday, or mostly every Thursday.
Unless I am having a panic attack. I'm just kidding.
Unless Alyssa has issues. So anybody that is in chat, feel free to give an input if you remember these shows, if you never heard of these shows, what shows you enjoyed. If you're listening over on Anchor or Spotify, there is a question section that you can participate either now or at the end of the episode, letting us know what shows that you remember, shows that you might want us to do a podcast episode about, because we do like to do deep dives and such, which is coming down the pike soon. Some deep dive areas.
I forgot to point out my shirt today is
yes.
Girls.
What's Powerpuff Girls?
These are my girls. What do you mean? What?
What's Powerpuff Girls?
What?
Was that a show?
I'm gonna come to the screen and slap you. Did you watch it? Literally, I have a box set DVD, like a DVD set of the Powerpuff Girls with all of them, like all their signatures on it that I got at a Comic-Con. So
you would. I unfortunately don't have any like graphic tees that have anything to do with shows that I watch because I'm lame. Ooh, quick before we actually get on today's show topic, the last like graphic tee that I had that related to anything that I liked was actually I think it was in like 2015 or 2016. My boss at the spa that I was working at, her and I got into a conversation about like TV shows that we enjoyed. Oh my goodness! This is a great segue because I wish that I had put this on my list. Her and I were like bonding over the fact that we both loved Captain Planet. Which, do you know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like he had us for like eco teens or whatever they were, and they summoned him into the world. They like this last season on Rick and Morty, they did a spoof of it where they made it like a female and she had like a thing with Morty. But that's based on like an actual TV show. And for Christmas, she ended up being my secret Santa and she got me a Captain Planet t-shirt, which was so sweet, but I was like, I didn't tell her this, but I was like, I will never wear this ever. And then I tried one time and it was like so small on me. I'm like, oh, that's why I'm not gonna wear this, because I feel super fat in this.
Oh gosh. All right.
All right.
You want to get into it?
Yeah, we're about half an hour in, but before we get into it, this part of the podcast is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. Dorian, can you put the link in chat? No, you can't because you're playing Fallout.
What do you want me to do?
Nothing, I got it.
I can.
Betray Star.
I
Betray
can.
Star.
I just didn't hear you.
No, it's fine. Yes, Raid Shadow Legends is a mobile game that has different campaigns. It has multiplayer campaigns as well as a solo track and storyline if you'd like to do that. I played it earlier this week. It is very, very addictive. If you use the link in chat right now over on Twitch, you can be entered in to the raid realm, and then if you use my code as well, which is SEFEB22, then you get some additional loot to help you on your journey. So yes, that will also be in the description for the podcast. So, hope to see you all there. Anyways, let's get into our lists. Miss Alyssa, would you like to go first?
I can. All right. Let's see. Let me get a good one. So, first on my list is American Dragon.
American Dragon Jake Long!
Yes, and I recently rewatched all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So like in September of last year, it's on Disney Plus, and I forgot how good that show is. But I feel like that's a show even I forgot about until I found it on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to like rewatch it. It's so good.
Yeah, no, that was great. What I loved about that show was that, like, I feel like a lot of these shows that we're probably going to talk about, because, I don't know, I feel like a lot of shows that are easily forgotten, they don't talk down to their audiences.
Yeah.
Which is, I really appreciated that about that show, was it had, like, its first season obviously was a pilot season, so it was like, hey, let's set up, like, Spuds is kind of an idiot, Trixie, her name was Trixie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, you know, she's got it together. Jake's a little bit of like a lackadaisy, laissez-faire, wannabe cool guy. And then there's Rose, and he kind of has a thing for her, and, you know, get the family dynamic down. But then after that, they actually... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the storyline. I didn't realize how good that was. Like, like most shows, you know, it's like, oh, stuff happens and it's just forgotten about, which may have happened and I just didn't notice it during, you know, the episodes, but like they kept a storyline going and I loved that. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, no, there was like episodic plots where it very much was like the Halloween episode. You know, that was one where it was like, okay, everything was wrapped up really nice and neat in a half hour, and you know, nothing out of the ordinary. Everything was going to be normal by next week. But
also I think though that still added to it because if I'm not mistaken, I know one of those like party episodes, the council, like the Dragon Council, like it kind of showed that like one of them was evil, you know. So like it kind of did add to it though, even though it was like kind of like off the thing, like.
Yeah, there are small
think,
pieces
it's weird.
in a lot of the
like,
episodes.
Yeah, and I love that. It's such a good show.
It's like if you watch it in
most forgotten.
Your number one most forgotten. If you watch each episode individually, it's a really good story. Like you can just sit down and watch an episode. But then if you also watch the entire series, it's like, oh my god, there was more here. That like I don't think you really appreciated as a child, because obviously every Friday night you were going to be down and like you understood what was going on. And your parents could walk by and be like, okay, it's a cute show, whatever. But yeah, like rewatching it now, it's like, oh my goodness. Yes, and like this has so much.
The voice actor for the dog,
Fu.
He's like, yeah, and he's like, I didn't realize it was that voice actor though, but it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's the voice actor from Adventure Time for Jake. And like he does all kinds, and then he's also in Futurama. That guy's in a lot of stuff, and I didn't notice that until I went and rewatched it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like he's in this too. It's crazy.
All right, yes, really good first choice. I feel like I didn't quite forget about American Dragon, but I think that's because my cousin and I were so obsessed with it for a period. There was a period where like we were very, very invested in American Dragon and Danny Phantom, like at the same time. So we always played games that like integrated the two worlds together.
That's
like,
amazing.
Okay. So I think that's the only reason that I didn't like forget about it, because it does fall into that era of like ones that you wouldn't really think about because you don't realize how in depth it is.
It's funny though because like you mentioned Danny Phantom, and I've seen like TikToks of people talking about Danny Phantom and like
People are
Fairly
trying to
Odd
bring it
Parents
back.
and stuff. But like I've not seen anyone talk about American Dragon, and I'm like, yo, that was such a good show.
So
And
I
I want a
think
tattoo. I kind of want Rose's tattoo now that I rewatched
oh,
it. I was
it's not
like,
a tattoo, it's a birthmark.
idea. Well, it would be a tattoo on me.
It would be a tattoo on you.
Birthmark.
Don't
But I think that'd be
misrepresent the
so cool.
show.
I'm sorry.
But the reason that I think a lot of creators and stuff on YouTube and TikTok and whatever talk a lot about like old Disney or old Nick shows as opposed to old Disney shows is Nick actually does have a history of bringing back shows if it has a fan base that it'll cater to. As opposed to Disney, like as soon as they're done with something, they're like, no, it's in the vault. We can't get it. It's in the vault now. Like, okay, the vault is fake. There's no vault that actually exists anywhere that holds the rights to these shows. You could bring it back.
Crap on me when I was a kid.
So my first one is Sheep in the Big City. I see your face.
Okay, that triggered a memory.
Did it?
Yeah.
So I don't
It
think a lot of people actually watched this show. I think it only ran for 2 seasons. And it did start as a cartoon, I believe. So for anybody that doesn't know, Cartoon Network. Okay, wait. I'm trying to remember which network did what because each network had some form of like, hey, we'll play just pilot episodes from random creators that we're not going to commit to giving them a contract. But if they give us some animation, we'll play it. And if people like it, we'll make a show out of it. I think on Cartoon Network, it was called Cartoon. Or it was called Oh Yeah Cartoons. I think it was Oh Yeah Cartoons. And it started on Oh Yeah Cartoons. And it essentially was a sheep that was running from the government and ended up in the big city. And it's so hilariously spoofy. Like as a kid, you're like, "Oh no, the government's going after an adorable little sheep that just wants to live his life. I need to see what happens." And as an adult rewatching this, oh my god, they put in so much humor that you would not get as a child. And it's not even like it's dirty humor. It's just things that you like you have to kind of be privy to the knowledge of. Like sheep starts out on I'll say Farmer John. On Farmer John's farm. And the narrator's like, "This is Farmer John's farm. He loves farming so much. His first name is Farmer." Like okay, that's a good joke. And then right next door to the farm is a secret government base controlled by General Specific. I saw your smirk there. See, that's a thinker joke, but it's there. And then if you like, there's a round table that they have of like all the other officials and stuff. And there's his like underling is named Private Public.
Oh my gosh.
And there are other generals there like General Hospital, General Practice, General Public.
Oh my god.
So just and then it's like as the story progresses because it has those like cute little jokes in there that like if you're paying attention you're like okay. But then as it plays like a telenovela. We're in like I think like episode 3 or whatever. Sheep is disguised as a lady trying to escape and the general's like, haha, yeah, this one right here, she's really attractive. And he like makes his way out of the restaurant where he's on a date with General Specific. And Farmer John finds him.
Okay.
He's like, "Sheep, what has the big city done to you?" And Sheep's just like in this dress and he just starts like fading like, and he grabs like the brim of his dress and then like runs off. It is so adorable. It's so funny. He ends up, I think, in like season 2, falling in love with like a pink poodle, because like poodle fur looks a lot like sheep wool.
Mm-hmm.
So it was such a good show, and nobody like really watched it, and it kind of fell in the period where, do you remember how like the Groom Adventures of Billy and Mandy, when it first started out, which that one also started as a cartoon or an oh yeah cartoon.
Yeah.
When that first started, it had Evil Con Carne like as its mid
Mm-hmm.
break. I think this one did too. I might be remembering it wrong, but its mid break one was Whatever Happened to Robot Jones. So I'm kind of doing a 2-for-1 here. Because I do know Robot Jones got its own series just like Evil Con Carne did.
Yeah.
But Whatever Happened to Robot Jones was a robot that went to school. It was and I'm not okay. I'll make this comparison later because I have another one that this
Same.
relates to. Same.
I think
Yeah,
you
we'll
were
probably talk about it on
singing the
yours.
theme song earlier.
Yeah, because mine's on my overflow list. So when we talk about that, I'll probably talk about Robot Jones a little bit. But yeah, it was pretty much this robot just like went to middle school and just tried to navigate what it was like to be in middle school, and it was very much like when you see those memes now about like the aliens that are looking at civilization, like what are they doing? And then it explains very practically, very pragmatically, like what's going on and why it doesn't make sense. Because if you stand back, it's like school is
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
And so it kind of does that for kids, where it like is a robot looking at like these children collectively
You,
are out in a yard kicking around a ball, getting upset when they get touched, and then sitting down. Okay, got it. Like,
can I add to that? I think that's why
sure.
our generation is the way it is because of the shows and stuff we grew up on. And then, like, I feel like the older generation's like, why are they this way? I'm like, you guys made cartoons that literally made us question all of this. So
Yeah, you
thank
guys
you.
made so many cartoons that were like
I'm
social
like, you realize, like,
commentary.
your generation was the one to make these cartoons. So, like, that's on you.
Yeah, like
Well, I'll spring off of you. Speaking of robots, my life is a teenage robot.
yeah.
Yeah. We'll go straight into that one.
Okay. No, I dig. Go ahead. Spring right on
um,
into it, madam.
you want to help me out here because it's been
Oh my
a
God.
long time since I have watched it.
So my life
Oh
as a
my
teenage
God.
robot started out on oh, what was it? It was Nick's version of Cartoon.
Was it the Oh Yeah?
It might be Oh
Oh
Yeah
Yeah?
Cartoons.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Whatever it was the Nickelodeon version where they would, premiere pretty much pilot episodes. ChalkZone started out that way. Fairly Odd Parents started
Mm.
out that way. SpongeBob, SpongeBob started out that way.
I thought
And
SpongeBob was supposed to be Cartoon Network.
it dicey, madam. Um,
Dynasty. I think the only thing I remember about my life as a teenage robot is her name was Jenny. Like that's
yeah. Well, her like, so I really like that they did that, because I like it now, sort of knowing that people do
yeah.
this. But have you had particularly like friends that hail from Asian countries, like where their families are deeply rooted in their culture?
Not really.
Not really. I have. And so some of them are like, "Oh yeah, I'm Tiffany," or "Oh yeah, I'm Delana," whatever. And it a couple of teachers at some point, I overheard it and it kind of dawned on me that this happens. They were like, "Oh, what's your real name?" And I was like, "That's so racist." And then they're like, "Oh, it's Hing Tong Shu Sam Fong Kong Kong," or
Huh.
whatever. And I'm like, "Oh my god. People adopt American names." Because Jenny's name isn't actually Jenny. It's XJ9.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was the her kind of like robot serial number, because her mom was a
Mhm.
scientist and had 8 other versions of XJs that she tested out as like, robot intelligent beings that are used to save the world, because that's XJ9's purpose, is to defend Earth from alien invaders, from meteorites, which I think is the first episode, is like she saves them from a meteor.
Yeah.
But the original cartoon that started it, which they remade into the pilot episode, was My Neighbor Was a Teenage Robot, and it followed Brad, who's Jenny's neighbor. He's playing with his little brother Tuck in the backyard, and Tucker like hits the ball and it breaks the window of the crazy lady next door's house. And he goes over and Jenny answers the door and he's like, "Oh my god, death robot!" Tucker does. And Brad's like, "What are you talking about? That's ridiculous." And so he like marches him back over there and is like, "No, we're going to calmly ask for our ball back and say that we're sorry that it broke their window." He knocks on the door and Jenny answers again and is like, "Oh, okay." Death robot. And then goes back again and is like, "Wait, cool. You're like a teenager like me. Okay." So Brad's supposed to kind of be like the audience.
Mhm.
To be like, okay, we can relate to this character. So let's see what the difference is for her. And then that's sort of like her thing too, just like whatever happened to Robot Jones, was she decides like, "Oh, I want to hang out with teenagers. I want to figure out what it's like to be a teenager since I have this existence and this sentience. Why not use it?" Um, and her mom agrees, like kind of begrudgingly, but is like, "You can't let this take away from your duties as like an Earth defender." So Jenny like goes to school and stuff, which seems so superfluous. I'm like, gee, I wonder who top of the class was. And I think there were even episodes where she was like, "I just don't understand chemistry." It's like, you're a robot. You have the internet like all the time.
She wasn't programmed for that,
She wasn't
Patrick.
programmed for chemistry,
Which I
right?
think throughout the show, they kind of she like tries to program different stuff into her, right? Like,
There are a bunch of different episodes where she tries to sort of like mess with herself to be more. So there are
yeah,
ones where it like the message is like, "Oh, like your own body and whatever," where she has this dude who was totally into her, which is a little creepy watching now. I forget what his name was, but he was this kid at school
realistic.
who, yeah, realistically. um, but he like kind of like buffed her out, like gave her a different paint job or, attached new pieces to her. And then there was another episode where like she wanted to change a little bit about her behavior. And so she messed with like her internal programming. There was another episode where like mice got inside her because they were the mom's, like the scientist lady's experiment beforehand. So they were like Russian versions of Mickey Mouse. And they
I
like took over
remember that.
XJ9. But it was a good top tier show.
Yeah, good show. Good theme song.
Good theme song. Yeah, we were singing
Good theme
that
song.
earlier. It's a bop.
It's a bop. All these shows had bops, honestly.
All these shows have bops. Oh, so my next one's actually an adult animation ish.
Mm.
It was like on it was on Adult Swim, I'm pretty sure is where it premiered in the US. But it was like early Adult Swim, so it was like the 8 o'clock hour when older kids like, they weren't quite in bed yet.
Yeah.
Um it's called God, the Devil and Bob. Yeah.
I don't
Um
remember that one.
it pretty much is the story of, what's the biblical story I'm thinking of? Sort of like the story of Job, where God and the devil are talking, and God's like, I'm kind of thinking about getting rid of everybody, like just clean slate, starting over. And the devil's like, don't play with my emotions like you did with that flood. And God's like, okay, when are you gonna give that a rest? Oh my goodness. But
That's amazing.
God thinks like, you know what? I'll give them one more chance. I'll give them one last fighting chance. And to be fair, I'll let you, the devil, decide who will save humanity. And the devil's like, oh, okay. And they end up in a bar. He's like, that guy. And God looks over and is like, Bob, I think his name's like Bob Aldman or something. Like, not my finest work. But okay, fair enough. And so he appears to Bob and is like, hey, I'm God. You're going to save the world or not. Just show me why I should save you. And then it sort of like goes along the lines of, just try, be a good person, care for your family, don't be a dick in public, like, and it sort of just follows that. And Bob like falls for temptation a few times, like the devil consistently tries to like, get him to mess up and whatever. But it's a pretty watchable show. He has like a teenage daughter, he has a young son. The son can see God. Because and they make that joke where God's like in the kitchen. He's like, don't worry, you're the only one that can see me. And the little boy walks past and is like, hi, Dad. Hi, God. And God's like, I always have trouble with the kids. I don't know what it is. And Bob at one point is like,
that
so
sounds awesome.
I know it's so good. And it's all available. All of the episodes that were premiered, at least in the US, are available for free on YouTube.
Oh, hell yeah.
But yeah, there was a joke that I really appreciated, especially because it does show him having a young son and then also a teenage daughter, where Bob asks, like, is the devil gonna come like after me or after my family? And God's like, don't worry about that. Like, yes, the devil's gonna come after you, but as far as your son goes, we made an agreement a long time ago. I get them till they're 12, he gets them till they're 21. And the son's just like playing with a toy and whatever. And then the 13-year-old teenage daughter comes down and is like, screw you, Dad, I hate you. And walks out and he's like, yeah, that tracks.
Oh my god. No, that sounds amazing. And I feel like it would have a lot of like references to the Bible.
I'm actually not sure how many it does. I'm sure there were a few that I just didn't pick up because I literally just binge watched all of it for this.
Yeah, I'm gonna
and I
have
more
to
so was looking at
because
story points and stuff.
yeah, because me and one of my friends that like we grew up in church together, I would love if I watched it and it has like some irony, like to Bible stories and stuff. I think she would like it.
I know it does make a couple of comments because it does bring up like, the whole Noah's Ark thing is like, you teased me, you said you were ending the world,
Yeah,
and you didn't.
That's amazing. Yeah, I
that
definitely
is
want to
very
check that
much
out
like
because I've never even heard of it.
yeah, a lot of people didn't. And I think it's because it was an early time Adult Swim show. So
Yeah,
I know like Dorian's parents, like they were super strict with what he could watch and not. So I'm like, I have no doubt he never heard of that show.
yeah,
And then like kids that were slightly older than you and I probably weren't really interested. Like,
yeah,
they were probably more on like Teen Nick or something like that. So
yeah.
but it was so good. I loved it. Only 4 episodes actually premiered in the US though.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it didn't get very good tractioning, probably because of its time slot, but then also it was sort of like dicey with like, oh, you're playing with that Abrahamic religion over here. Uncomfortable.
Yeah, I
It's
started
close
to
enough
say
when
like
kids can
that's
watch it.
surprising. Yeah, that's surprising that they even aired it.
I think if they had put it at like the 10 o'clock time slot or something, it would have done a lot better. But because then that would have been like when Nick at Night and stuff was like on and when decom movies and stuff were on, so older kids probably would have switched it to Adult Swim.
Yeah,
And it would have been fine for that. It would have definitely been like right there on their humor level.
yeah,
But they did it closer to when like kids would be watching it because it was like an animation that didn't like there are really no curse words or anything in it. So I imagine there were probably some kids that watched it and parents probably were all aghast. Which is like if you have a problem with your kids watching TV, then don't have a TV. All right, girly, what's your next one? What's number 3?
um, I'm gonna throw this one out here.
Is it SpongeBob?
Little Bill.
Little Bill! Oh my god! Little Bill!
It just came to my mind. And Bill Cosby. And that's all I know. Because I haven't watched Little Bill in forever, but I used to love Little Bill.
That's okay, that theme song. That's the one that's like, hey, ho, I say hey, ho. Right?
I don't know. I just
Am I
remember
thinking of
like
the right
Little
one?
Bill. I don't know. Can I pull it up real fast? Because I'm
Because
like,
yeah, go right on ahead. I need to know this because there was some
It's-
TV show and I think it was Little Bill. I didn't actually watch it, but whenever the theme song came on, I like got real into it. I was like, hey, ho, and I was so little. And my sisters would just look at me. They'd be like, "Hey, Patrick, do that again." My friends are gonna think that's so cool when they come over. Do that for them. Little Bill theme
Little
song.
Bill. Little Bill.
I hope this isn't copyrighted. It probably is.
Alright.
Oh nope, it is just sort of like
It is
pop
just
music.
Little
Oh
Bill.
god, Bill Cosby. Maybe there was like an episode that had it or something.
Little Bill. Little Bill.
Little Bill. Little Bill.
That, if you ever wonder why I am the way I am, it's because I grew up on Little Bill.
That's brilliant. I think there was an episode where it did that, where he was like playing basketball or something. It was like, hey, ho, say hey, ho. I just thought it was the coolest
Bill.
thing. I never realized that Little Bill was Little Bill Cosby.
Yeah,
I never realized it was
why-
that kind of a show.
that's why I was like, you're gonna kill me. Little Bill.
Oh.
Little Bill.
I was so busy not seeing color, I also didn't see that other stuff.
I also didn't see
I
Little
also
Bill. Bill Cosby.
All right, my third one is Dave the Barbarian.
I have that one down too.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
Hey, Twinning.
So Dave the Barbarian was on Disney. It's not on Disney Plus, and I don't know why. Dave the Barbarian. So Dave the Barbarian it's on Disney, not on Disney Plus. Can't find it right now. Want to find it. It revolves around a like big muscly lunkhead Dave, who is essentially Crunk, but in the Middle Ages. Because yeah, super buff. He is like seems like he should be the ideal barbarian, but he likes doing things like knitting and cooking. And he has a little pet dragon who is very, very dumb. His name's Fang. Yeah. Or no, it's not Fang. Fang's the sister. Faffy. Faffy is his dragon's name.
Close enough.
Close enough. Faffy. Yeah, the idea of the show centers around like Dave and his two sisters were left in charge. His older sister Candy was actually left in charge when their parents went to go fight evil. Which like cool. Like there are rulers that want to go fight evil, not just be the evil that like invades or that like barbarians do. Catching on. Sorry. But yeah, so they left Candy in charge. And she's very much like the typical Valley girl teenager. She really wants to be at the mall. She wants to hang out with her friends. She's okay with like just keep holding down the fort, I guess. And she can kind of hold her own. She coined her catchphrase, "Don't mess with the princess." Like, okay, I get you. I see you, girl.
See you, boo.
I see you, boo. All three of the siblings had a catchphrase. I think Dave's was like, "Don't hurt me," or something like that. Like,
Yeah,
or not the face.
I kind of
Something.
remember that.
And then Fang is the youngest sister. She is 100% little barbarian. She often gets mistaken for a monkey, which is her catchphrase, not a monkey. They have their uncle there who's sort of like guiding them, who also happens to be like the court wizard, in spite of the fact that he never went to wizarding school, which introduces like his arch nemesis later in the series. I think it only had 2 seasons again. But yeah, the main like antagonist was, what's his name? Chuckles? I think it was Chuckles the silly piggy. There was Lula, his sword, his enchanted sword, who's like the sister or cousin of Thor's hammer. They do an episode on that. That was funny.
You know, it's weird.
Where does it say
it's Lula, and then like in Walking Dead, he names his bat Lucille. It's just weird.
Knuckles? It was Knuckles. That was his name. Knuckles, the silly piggy.
Aww.
I know, so cute.
Aww.
I always loved that. I loved whenever he'd be like introduced to the episode and he's like, you know, monologuing or whatever, and he's like, and finally, Udrigoth will be mine! Knuckles, the silly piggy! Oh, so cute. Yeah, it didn't last super long, but once again, that's just because honestly, they can only do the same type of story so many times before, because like they tried to integrate like modern day things into the medieval ages, and that was kind of it. Like their job was to stay at home and
Yeah.
not go adventuring and not go do barbarian things.
Yeah.
And that was the premise of it, and it really couldn't go that far. Like your show's about barbarians not being barbarians, which yeah is a cool idea. Go ahead.
Brandy and Mr. Whiskers, they almost had like the same. It wasn't the same concept, but like, you know, they could only do so much in the jungle. Like they were kind of
that
just
was
like,
actually one of mine. That was another one of mine. Was Brandy and Mr. Whiskers.
oh really?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all good.
Brandy
But same
and
thing there.
Mr.
Yeah,
Whiskers.
it honestly like they kind of ran off there too. Which like why not? Let's get into Brandy and Mr. Whiskers right now.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that basically revolves around a plane that had animal cargo. Brandy Harrington of the Florida Harringtons was being transported to like a fancy ski chalet, and Mr. Whiskers was being sold to a zoo in like Uruguay for 96 cents. And like that's literally their first interaction is Brandy's like, I need some service over here. Mr. Whiskers like, oh, I could probably help with something. And they start talking, and she's like, oh, you're getting sold for 96 cents? And Mr. Whiskers just like, his face drops and he's like, again? And then she like asks for more light, and Whiskers, not being able to read, goes over to the door and is like, this looks about right. And then opens it and everybody falls out into the jungle. The only people from the plane that we see are Brandy and Mr. Whiskers, so don't know what happened to the rest of the animals.
Use your imagination.
I don't want to use my imagination. But yeah, and the first season sort of centers around them like growing this brother and sister relationship. Brandy like realizing that Mr. Whiskers is like a cool friend, and her learning to be a little less stuck up. And then the second season sort of revolves around like them integrating societal things into the jungle, like doing shiny rocks for money. And there's like a mall that was hidden the entire first season.
I loved that episode. That's like the one that stands out to me.
Yeah, well, and they bring back the mall so much, but in the one where they introduce it, I think that's like the season 2 premiere. Lola's like, Lola the snake is going through, and she's like, this has been here the whole time, and we have a very good reason why we didn't tell you about it until now. And then there's just like a 30-second pause, and then the episode just continues. Like it just entirely ignores whatever that reason is.
And see,
and as the audience, you brush it off.
But I love that humor in like kids shows when they point out like
plot holes on themselves.
Or that's like the same as Boy Meets World when like the sister disappears for like a whole season or so, and like she comes back a different person. They're like, "You've been in your room for like years now, Morgan." Like, like I love when they like call them like they call themselves out.
Oh, that's great. I love character replacements. Like that's
Right.
when they try and explain them. It's always so great.
Okay, I'll go over these two together. So the Little Mermaid and the Lilo and Stitch shows that they had on
Ooh,
Disney.
yeah.
I loved those. I always watched those. They would come on at like 6 a.m. So I would
Uh-huh.
watch them before school. And they
Same.
were so good. Honestly, they were awesome.
Mm,
And I feel like nobody really remembers
they were good.
watching those. Yeah.
The Little Mermaid one, I feel wasn't as good because I do kind of feel like it talked down to its audience.
Yeah, for sure.
But it
It was
obviously was made for children.
yeah. But I just always thought it was funny they played those like 6 a.m.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I'm gonna just get ready to this.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
remember they would play The Little Mermaid right before they played Winnie the Pooh in the mornings. So I'd always like I knew that I had done a good job at waking up early enough if I was downstairs in front of the TV in time to like see the little orca swimming for the
That's
theme
how I tell
song.
time too. I'm like, what time is it? Oh, the Mermaid's on. It's 6 a.m. I always knew.
Mhm.
I would tell time by TV. But yeah, the Lilo and Stitch show is definitely superior to the Little Mermaid. Because
It
I
was,
still
yeah.
think about. Oh yeah, like it was awesome. Because they would try to catch the cousins
The
of
different experiments.
Stitch. The little pod, yeah. So they would be like these little pods, and was it just if they got wet, they would
Yeah, they
come to
were
life?
dehydrated to like all fit inside the experiment transport. And
Yeah.
then they all got like released on the world at the end of the second movie. And so
And
yeah,
so
then
it picks
anytime
up
they
from
got wet.
there. Yeah. And it's a really good show, honestly. I mean, I haven't watched it in forever, but it used to be really good from
It
what I
was really good.
remember. And
No.
then Angel, she was in the second movie, right? There was a bunch of really interesting cousins, though.
So Angel was in Stitch Has a Glitch. She did get her own episode
Mm,
in the
okay.
series. Yeah, the first episode or the like movie, the only experiment that got released, I think, was Sparky.
Okay.
And that was sort of like the introduction to like, oh no. 625 also got released. And he became what's his
And
face?
they get
What's his face's like partner. And that was like the big running joke is
oh
like
yeah.
625 can do anything 626 can do. He just chooses to make
Yeah.
sandwiches all day.
Well, and they I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But they get more dangerous as they go, right? And that was the joke. Like they were like, "Oh my god, 625 must be really dangerous," or like the higher the number. Am I
Yeah.
right?
So they
So they were
got
like, "Why
more
isn't 625
intricate the more
dangerous?"
they went. Yeah. Because I think 001 was just one that like grew and shrank, and that was their only power. And in that episode, I think it became like a tilt-a-whirl or something. It became like he was able to go like 360, so he became like an amusement park ride.
Oh yeah, I forgot they found like a place for them.
Yeah, they
They
gave
got
each of them like a purpose
a
in life
purpose.
that had nothing to do with being an evil experiment.
Yeah, good show. Good show.
Yeah, like at the end of the movie, I think they attached Sparky to the lighthouse that didn't work anymore. And so
Hmm.
that was just his job. He was just there at the lighthouse. He got to look out at Hawaii all day, and like Lilo and Stitch would go around and hang out with them all intermittently. So yeah, no, it was really good. And then it sort of ended with like Stitch Has a Glitch, and then Leroy and Stitch. So
Yeah.
that was like the complete ending because I think they still I think they had episodes that aired out of order, and so they ended the series, and then they came out with Stitch Has a Glitch, and then more episodes kept airing because of the scheduling. And they were like, well, how about we like milk this for one more movie? And then they do Leroy and Stitch where they have 6 to 8. So
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. It was a pretty solid show though.
Pretty solid.
Pretty solid. Good. All right. What we got moving on next?
What?
Oh, okay. Mike, Lou, and Og are my next one.
Okay.
Ring any bells?
I know I'm like, that sounds familiar, but no.
Mike, Lou, and Og. So it essentially is a show. I think it only had one season. But it was a show about a foreign exchange student, Mike, who was female. I think Mike was short for like Michelle or something. But yeah, Mike went to this island for a foreign exchange program. And it pretty much was like Robinson Crusoe for kids. Because she just was kind of like learning how to be on an island. And she had like this little TV watch where she could kind of keep up on like her program. She would write letters to her parents. Yeah, there was Og, who just wore like this little loincloth and he had like a septum piercing. And he was like a super genius. Like there is an episode where like he invented lights because Mike is from, I think she's from New York. And there's an episode where she's like, I can't sleep because it's too dark. Like I need stimulation to fall asleep. I need to see lights and hear noises and whatever. And so Og essentially like invents electricity for the island to try and help her sleep. And that causes problems because everyone's like, their circadian rhythms get thrown off and they are like up all night doing dance parties and whatever. And they're telling Mike like, you're sleeping your life away. And she's like, yeah, this is the first good sleep I've had. Leave me alone. And then there's Lou, which is short for Luann. She's a girl from the island as well who acts like she's a princess. She's essentially like Angelica. I think this was on Cartoon Network, so, you know, no interference there with having a too similar character to a show on the network. But yeah, she essentially just like called herself an island princess. And she'd act very stuck up. And obviously, because it's an exchange program, they had like school. And the school was like outside. They were all sitting on rocks and like writing on rocks with other rocks.
I love
I'm not going to
that.
say it was
No, I
like
don't
the
remember
greatest.
this.
You remember this? Or you don't remember this?
No, I don't.
Don't? So where
Mm-mm.
most people are going to remember this is if you played games on CartoonNetwork.com. There was a game called Cartoon Network like Summer Vacation or something like that. Summer Resort. That was it. Summer Resort. And it had characters from Mike, Lou, and Og, like and from a bunch of other like cartoons as the main characters or characters that you could choose to be. And so if people don't remember the show, if they were to see that game, which by the way is not online anymore, it's $40.
I know. I get so like I want to bring back all of those games that I played when I was younger.
Right?
And like make them on like the I don't know, like you could sell them. Like they could totally sell them. But
well, the Cartoon Network Resort game goes for $40 online. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like that game wasn't even that good. Like it was good. I played it all the time, but it's not $40 good.
Yeah.
My goodness. Yeah, so if anybody like saw that game and was like, oh yeah, the little red hair girl with like pigtails and whatever, that was from a TV show? That's where it's from. But it only lasted a season, so it wasn't that great. But because it's once again one of those things where it's like, how many of these episodes can you do?
Right.
I don't really remember any like super compelling storylines.
Yeah.
But
and I think that's the difference between like most of these compared to like American Dragon. And then like Lilo and Stitch though, that could have like gone forever.
It could have at least gone for 628 episodes.
That's what That's like, yeah, like it could still be going on, guys.
We could well be into like the 10th season by now. Come on.
Okay, let me try. Ooh, codenamed Kid Next Door. Kids Next
Dorian
Door.
and I watched that over the summer.
Really?
Or I guess like towards the beginning of fall.
It's been forever since I've watched it. But
Yeah, it's on
I
HBO.
remember. Really?
Yeah, it's on almost all the Cartoon Network
Well,
shows are on HBO now.
nice. Okay, well, yeah, I definitely want to watch that because I remember my cousin always watching it, and I thought it was stupid because I was like a lot younger. But then like once I got a little bit older, I was like, oh, I like this. I like this a
I like
lot. I like that. That was an interesting show, I thought.
That was another oh yeah cartoon or cartoon. Where they have the pilot episode where it was Adult Swim and Mr. Fink and Mr. something. Like they commandeered the pool from the kids. And so the kids next door were like, oh no, we're retaliating, and they make like a giant treehouse robot. Oh, that was so good. I especially like that as it kind of aged with its audience, where
Yeah.
the first couple seasons are very much like kid related. Like they have the dentist episode where the dentist doesn't want him like eating candy, or no, spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't seen that episode. The candy shop owner doesn't want kids eating candy. He always wanted to be a dentist, but his family owned a candy shop. Yeah. Which I did like some of those twists. Like that was actually a really smart thing. Like it taught kids like, oh yeah, the dentist is the red herring because there's a new dentist in town. So clearly
Yeah.
he's attacking kids at night and cleaning their teeth for free. Which I'm like, please, give me a teeth cleaning for free.
I know as adults you watch these and you're like, I want that.
Yeah, please.
That nightmare is my dream.
But yeah, like as it progressed and it had like the storyline with the delightful children from down the lane. And then it started like integrating father and all these like reoccurring villains that actually had an arc.
Yeah.
I thought that was so great. And leading up to like the finale of it, which was the Kids Next Door movie, I'm like, this was really well put together. Like even as an adult watching it, I'm like, yeah, that was solid work. Like as a kid, I liked watching this. It had a really good storyline. It kept me entertained. And as an adult, I can sit down and watch it and be like, okay, some of this is far fetched, but oh my god, like these are twists that I wouldn't expect from a kids show.
Yeah. Codename Kids Next Door.
Got anything else you want to add? Because I feel like I commandeer most of the conversation.
No, that's good because I haven't watched most of these. You did your research, I did not, so
You did your research?
I literally just was like thinking of stuff. I'm like, oh, I used to watch that. But
Oh yeah.
I didn't really get to watch a lot of them, so thank you.
No, fair enough. So my next one is PB&J Otter. Very on brand for me. Yeah. So PB&J Otter has to do with like it was on Disney. It's not on Disney Plus, don't know why. But it had to do with like a family of otters that lived in this little community by a river. So they were like little river otters. And they pretty much would just like interact with the creatures around them. Like they would go to school. Peanut was the oldest. Jelly was the middle child, and she was the only girl. And then Butter was the baby. So adorable. He had like this little diaper and everything. It was so cute. I don't remember a lot of the actual episodes, but I do remember that there was a little raccoon character that my sister was in love with. Because he always would just be like running crazy, doing whatever. And then he like would oftentimes cause whatever situation that they had to deal with. Because there a lot of times wasn't a huge antagonist. It was more like a situation like, oh my God, we need to fix this before mom and dad get home. Or how are we going to do this at school? Like our project is due in 5 minutes. And oftentimes it's because this little raccoon character was running around. And he like bonks into something, or he destroys something, or he runs over something. and then instantly turns around and is like, sorry, my fault. Just like owns it. It was so cute. And that would always be like mine and my sister's thing. Whenever we did something like kind of wrong and we knew it, we'd be like, sorry, my fault.
That's amazing.
It was so cute. I'd love to watch that show, but Disney won't put it out, so
It's so weird, like some of the things they choose, like not to put on there.
Nemi just got in chat. Today we are talking about shows that most people have forgotten. Doug. I do remember Doug. You know what? Doug was a good one. Doug's not on my list. They do actually have Doug on Disney Plus. You know what else they have on Disney Plus that's right up there with Doug? Pepper Ann.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about ChalkZone.
ChalkZone. Who's got the chalk? The chalk. Rudy's got the chalk.
ChalkZone. Who's got the chalk? Who's got the chalk? ChalkZone. Nailed it. Crushed it. You know why? It's a bop.
Oh my god. First take, no mistakes. Boom.
Okay, so ChalkZone
also was an Oh Yeah cartoon.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you watch the original pilot episode, it looks so different on Oh Yeah cartoons versus... And actually, they premiered the original, like, first 5 episodes or whatever, which are a completely different animation, different stories. They released them in, like, season 3, I think? And they do them as, like, flashbacks to explain, like, why it looks so different. Because there's, like, an episode about, like, when Penny and Rudy, like, first started talking and stuff. So, yeah. It's super cute.
That's so funny.
Anyways, go ahead.
I love that, like, those shows did stuff like that. Like, they would make it make sense somehow. But, ChalkZone. We were talking earlier about ChalkZone, and that was one of the shows that, like, didn't have a reason to get canceled. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it got canceled for literally no reason.
Yeah. So what would happen is shows like that, they would, for some reason, like, the network would not release episodes, or, like, they would, like, hold on to episodes for periods of time. And the video I watched on YouTube about, like, some of this stuff is, like, obviously kids would be anticipating, like, you know, oh, it's, like, at this time slot. And then they would, like, not release it for months and then put it in a different time slot. And so the episode would be, like, out, and then, like, kids couldn't, like, keep a schedule of, like, when it was going to be out. So that was what pretty much, like, what?
That was an issue that they had on My Life as a Teenage Robot, was that the creators weren't anticipating having to have such a quick turnaround time, because they pretty much gave them their contract and was like, your first episode's next week. They're like, oh, okay. And you need to come out with a weekly episode for at least 7 weeks. It's like, okay. It takes more than a week to make a cartoon.
Right?
And so they would, like, for the amount of time that it was on, they only had an episode, like 1 episode per month. And I think with ChalkZone, what happened was that there was, this might have been ChalkZone, I might be confusing it with a different one, but I think with ChalkZone, they had scheduling conflicts where they had, like, their final episode date, but they wanted to have a certain episode be released right around Thanksgiving. So they pushed that episode to be at Thanksgiving, and then they ended up, like, releasing extra episodes after the show had officially wrapped that were episodes prior to that, because they were supposed to be how the series ended. So yeah, it, like, the show closed and then it still had new episodes for, like, a few months after its final air date.
They got messy. They got messy with it.
Nickelodeon, but, like, when they cancel shows, they don't know how to just cancel a show.
Yet they won't bring back some of the shows that we want, and it's like, thank you, Nickelodeon.
I know, it's like they did Danny Phantom dirty. Like, that's a show that needs to come back. It has such a big fan base. Even now, there are so many adults that would watch that. And unfortunately, like Butch Hartman no longer has his contracts and stuff with Nickelodeon, but
Okay,
yeah.
reminds me to show you the crime documentary. I'll have to write this down. But a guy like went on a murder rampage and like claiming it's because of a character from Danny Phantom. You know what I'm talking about?
I know who you're talking about. Yeah, he was actually a really popular YouTuber, and then he like went on a
We should definitely
small
do an
murder spree
episode on
at his.
that.
We will, sure,
Yeah.
definitely, because he thought that his soul was and I'm not gonna say he thought, whatever, but he put out that he was a ghost girl inside, like Ember, and
Yeah,
he
that's
had like alter egos that were these other ghost girls that were interested in like his male self, but inside he was really a ghost female that was going to join his other ghost females, including Ember. Which, granted, I will give it. Ember was one of the, if not the most iconic character from that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that was wild. That was wild.
all right, the next one I have is Xiaolin Showdown. Did you ever watch that one?
No.
Yeah, so Xiaolin Showdown was sort of like Avatar: The Last Airbender, except without like all the nations of people that had these abilities. It was about Shaolin monks, who it was like a specific order of the Shaolin monks who had the ability to sort of be in tune with these elements, and the specific monks were all kids. They were like coming into their own. They were found. The first one is Omi, who was raised at the monastery. He's already very in tune, whatever. And he's supposed to be the spiritual dragon of water. And then they find a cowboy named Clay, who is very much like a southern gentleman. And he's the elemental dragon of earth. Get it? Clay, earth. Ha 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 ha. And they find Raimundo, he's sort of like a streetwise kid, and he's the elemental dragon of air. And then they find Kimiko, who is the elemental dragon of fire. And Kimiko is the only one I think from Japan. And she also is like the daughter of a Fortune 500 company's like CEO. I think it's supposed to be like it's supposed to allude to like she's the daughter of the inventor of like Nintendo, but it's whatever Nintendo is in their world. But yeah, so they all get together at the monastery and they're supposed to learn like how to cultivate these abilities. And at this same time, they learn that there was like this battle that happened eons beforehand between the Shaolin monks and, oh my god, what was the other order that they fought against? There was another order that, like, depending on whose side you were on, they were just as entitled to, what they believed was right.
See, I've never watched this show, and now I want to because it sounds really
Oh my
cool.
god, it is so good. They had a little dragon, not the bad guys, but our main heroes. They had a little dragon that could like change his size named Dojo. He was like very wisecracking. The main villain, the Halen, that's what they were called, Halen. So yeah, the Shaolins and the Halens had this battle eons ago with these magical artifacts called Shenggong Wu. And they were pretty much these items that each had a specific ability. And some of them were very attached to like the dragons, and some of them were just sort of like were just mystified to help aid regular human beings. Like Omi, his Shenggong Wu that was very attached to the water dragon was called the Orb of Tornami, or the Orb of Tsunami, or whatever, and it would produce an amazing amount of water. And I think for like Kimiko, it was like a comb or something that could produce her into like a fire beast or something. Raimundo's was, I think, like a helmet that could make him fly, or shoes that could make him fly, something like that. And then the antagonists of this show were obviously the Halens. And in the first episode, what was his name? Jack. Jack is like a genius, a super genius that like builds robots and whatever. And he finds this puzzle box and is like, well, for a genius like me, this is super easy. He does it in like 3 moves and is like, see, I'm smart, because he just had failed at something, so he was trying to prove to himself he was smart. And inside this puzzle box was actually her name was Wuya, who was a Halen witch who in the original like battle lost her physical form. The Xiaolins had removed her physical essence and had attached her to a Shengang Wu that essentially like gave your soul a form outside of your body. So yeah, it's very cool. There's a lot of interesting storylines that it takes. There's like a Halen master kind of, who's the same age as all the Shaolin dragons, who has an interesting dichotomy with himself where he's like, yes, I fight for the Halen side because I comply with them, but I never use Shengang Wu because I feel like I can hold my own. Fighting with the Shengang Wu when I'm fighting for the Shengang Wu is, takes away from me. And he also is like a half lizard creature. Like he can turn himself into a lizard creature, just like how the Shaolin dragons, I think they have like dragon forms. Yeah. They each have dragon forms as well. So it just was so cool. And it actually originally aired on WB, like WB Kids. And then it moved its way over into Cartoon Network as soon as it like kind of had a wrap. So that was where I first saw it.
The more you like talk about it, the more it sounds familiar to me.
There's a chance that you saw some of it somewhere.
Yeah.
How many more do we have?
I have
I only have 3 left on my list. Plus my overflow.
Yeah, I have an overflow too, but yeah. We'll do 3 more. Okay. Next I have As Told by Ginger.
I forgot about As Told by Ginger.
I loved that show.
I only watched a couple of episodes and I realized that it was like a 4 girls TV show. It was very much along the lines of like what's it called? Like Life According to Clarissa or something. Clarissa Explains It All.
Yeah. And it's cool because it did have a lot of like teenager
problems,
like storylines instead of like for kid. It was like a good preteen into teenage years show.
And yeah, like Ned's Declassified or Zoe 101, like it hit that audience, but as a cartoon.
Yeah. And so it was cool that it was a cartoon. And then like I think I was watching, like, that's one of the only cartoons that they aged in the cartoon. Like they all started looking, like they all kind of started looking older throughout the series. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. And like it's so funny because I can't think of the mean girl's name. I can't think of her name. The blonde, but
I don't know. I've only saw a couple episodes.
I know, but there's one episode. I want to say Brittany, but that's just such a basic like blonde girl.
That probably means that's what it is.
I
honestly.
know, right? I'm like,
because this was a Nick show, right?
Yeah.
It was done in the same style as like the Wild Thornberries and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, there's this one episode I remember. They were like in the pool, and some girl like she takes her top off. Like. That's like one scene I remember from it. Like it was like one of the other mean girls like pulls the strings on her top and then like she freaks out and starts crying. I mean, but that was like
episodes like that stick with you. It's like the Ned's Declassified episode where he like has to itch himself down there. I'm like, yes, yeah, because especially at that age, like when you're starting to like grow hair and whatever, it's like
you're like relatable.
I'm like, yeah, that's definitely one that like yeah, sometimes you rush into the bathroom, not because you have to go to the bathroom, but because you have to like adjust or. And then there were dudes too that like, there were dudes that would just like casually do it, like they could just reach down their pants and adjust themselves and whatever. And I'm like, good for you for having that confidence.
Wash your hands, please.
Yeah, honestly, it's like good for you, and at the same time, like sanitizers over there, buddy. I'll have to watch that one. Is that one anywhere? Like, do you know where that is?
No,
No.
I
Okay.
suck. I didn't do my research. Sorry.
Cool. Thanks. Awesome.
Well,
Good for you.
we'll
Okay,
give
moving
that.
on.
That's what Gables are.
All right, so my next one is Lloyd in Space.
Ooh.
And I feel like this is one of the only like shows where I did have like a small period where I was sci-fi interested. I watched this about the same time as I watched the Buzz Lightyear series that everyone forgot about as well.
I don't remember that either. Yeah.
There was a Buzz Lightyear series. And so when I saw that like they have a Buzz Lightyear movie coming out, which is supposed to be the story of like the astronaut from that unit from like the Disney universe that Buzz Lightyear is made after, because obviously Buzz Lightyear is supposed to be modeled after Buzz Aldrin.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I saw that movie, I was like, oh, this is so cool. The like TV show's finally getting a movie. And it's like, oh, no, it's not. But the TV show was really cool. And this show I watched concurrently with that. And this was also a Disney show. It's not on Disney Plus yet. Don't know why. But yeah, it's called Lloyd in Space. And it's about an alien who is on like this space deck, I guess, with other alien families. And so he like goes to school. It's one of those like coming of age stories. I can tell why it didn't go very far, because obviously it's one of those where it's like, if you've seen one of them, you've kind of seen all of them, you know all the stories. And it just presents things in a slightly different way. Like one of the most memorable episodes, obviously, because it has a very jarring moment, much like As Told by Ginger, is there's an episode, and this was when I watched this like when I was about in middle school, and so I kind of understood what it was alluding to more than like a child would. But Lloyd is very much modeled after like the Little Green Men type thing. So he has like an antenna on top of his head. He has green skin. He has like 3 fingers. It's very cute, very fun. He has like a little sister that has like a little vein on her forehead that'll glow, and she has telekinesis. It's so funny, so cute. But there's an episode where like he's starting to hit puberty, and so his antenna will start projecting his thoughts. And so he'll like try not to think about certain things, and like some of his inner thoughts will come out. And it's of course it's like things that are totally safe for TV. So like there's a version of himself called Rodeo Clown Lloyd that'll just like pop out of his head at random times, and everybody can see it. So they're like, what the fuck? Like, this is what you thought you were gonna be? Like, you thought you were gonna be a clown? That's stupid. And there's at one point in the episode where he's like trying so hard to like keep it all in that his like antenna kind of explodes with a million different versions of himself. And they're all naked. And it's in school. And I'm like, that is super jarring. And one of like the rodeo clown Lloyd, he's like, it was hot in there. And there's like a super buff version of himself that he always like fantasizes like he's saving like the girls in class with and all that stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm in middle school. I can actually see what you're kind of going for with like puberty. There's stuff that just sort of pops up that you don't expect, that is like embarrassing if it happens in school and is weird if it happens around your family. Because there's like, you know, part of the episode he's like having dinner or whatever, and then like 3 of his little selves like are on the table, and his sister's like, Mom, tell him to get rid of those. Like, okay, I see what you're doing. So like while that show definitely was a typical like kind of coming of age show where it's just like teenage problems and whatever, it had episodes like that were highly relatable if you were going through whatever it was that it was actually talking about, where it, like you could kind of see past whatever it was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Youts.
Yes. All right,
I wonder.
the next one.
No, I wonder why those like don't get put on Disney Plus. It's so weird. I wonder if they've like lost these episodes.
I don't know. They clearly didn't put them in the
They
Disney
pushed
vault
them
hard
in the
enough.
vault. They put them in the vaults and they can't find them. Okay, next one, people may have not forgot about this one, but CatDog. That was
CatDog.
I loved
CatDog.
CatDog. I
I
don't
know,
know
we
what
know,
else
we know, we know, a
people
cat
forgot
dog.
about though. And then I also have BraceFace on here.
I forgot about BraceFace.
Okay, see, yeah. I'm like, I feel like CatDog's one that most people remember. But yeah, BraceFace and crap. What was I kind of combined two of these together? It was like a show about it's kind of like Charlie's Angel vibes.
Oh, totally Spies.
Yep. I like
Yep.
connect those two for some reason, but I think it was because they like came on like right after each
right
other.
after each other.
Yeah.
Can I be honest with you? I only watched BraceFace because I accidentally turned it on thinking that it was Sabrina.
That didn't run very long, I don't believe. But like
I think it lasted
kinda,
a season, like a pilot season.
yeah. And I forgot the premise of it was like her
Draco.
braces gave her power. Or like it picked up like signals and stuff.
So I think there was an episode, yeah, I remember that, where like it tuned into something.
Yeah, it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there wasn't really much you could do with that show either.
No. It was, I mean, I know that they definitely had a couple more like adulty, dicey moments.
Yeah.
I remember the episode that I did actually tune in on. It was about her getting pimples or whatever. And there was like a prom fashion show or something like that going on. And I remember a girl like was behind stage kind of changing. And then you hear, and she looks back and starts shouting, "Perv!" I'm like, they can say that on Disney? And then, yeah, Totally Spies. I never actually watched Totally Spies, but I know the general premise. It was very Charlie's Angels-esque. They get, like, called, except it's teenagers, so of course, you know.
Yeah.
They get called down, and, like, wherever they are, there's always, like, a chute going into what's-his-face. Like, he looked like Alfred from Batman. Like, into his little, like, spy zone, and he'd be like, "Oh, girls, we have a mission for you." And it was always some like outlandish thing that having like a makeup compact solved.
Yep.
I don't mean to like undermine the show like that, but it always was. I felt something like that. Like the couple times that I actually turned it on.
It definitely was.
All right. Mine was that the last of your list?
Let me see. I think it was just a short, but I had Daria.
Oh, I love Daria. That one's on Hulu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one's kind of not really forgotten. And then okay, so there was a cartoon called Mr. Meaty that was like a trip and a half to watch. It
was a puppet, right? It was like puppets. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I wrote that down because like occasionally I will remember that and I'm like, what
was this?
What even was that?
I think it was like Nickelodeon's clapback to Good Burger. All right. So my last ones, my TheXs. Do you remember that? TheXs was a TV show on Nickelodeon about a family of super spies. And so it was like a mom and a dad, an older teenage daughter and a younger brother, and all of them were spies. So they just like kind of did like family adventures. Like it would go through a lot of the episodes would be like they're dealing with a mundane family issue while also like saving the world. Like they're trying to figure out what to do about dinner or what to do about like, you know, the son's bad grades while fighting their arch nemesis. you know, who's trying to destroy the planet. I didn't do my research as thoroughly with this one. I remembered loving watching it, but it only got one season.
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
And it was only a pilot season. I thought it was so cool. I think Susan Sarandon plays like the mom. Yeah, it was definitely awesome. Was upset that it didn't last as long. I think it only had legit like 7 episodes or something though. And then my last one for this list before I do like just the honorable mentions was The Weekenders.
Okay.
You remember that?
Yeah,
Kinda?
a little bit.
Little bit? Yeah, The Weekenders. I used to love this show, but I'd only ever watch it in my room because I felt like my sisters would make fun of me for it. It revolved around 4 kids, Tino, Lore, Carver, and Tish. And it pretty much like just followed their adventures of what they were doing during the weekend. So, which I thoroughly appreciated. Like, it would sometimes spill into like the weekdays, but each part of the episode would be segmented into like Friday. And Friday was always the setup for like, this is what we're doing this weekend. We're going to the arcade, or this person's having a party, or, you know, my mom is dragging me to this. And Saturday would typically be like the main event, whatever the action was that was happening. And then Sunday would typically be like the wrap up. And if it couldn't get wrapped up by Sunday, then sometimes it would spill into like Monday. And they'd all sort of like reconcile back at school. There were a couple episodes where it would be like a week long, and it would have like, you know, you just sort of see them like scowling at each other for like Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, and then by the following weekend they'd sort of try and figure it out. But I liked that it didn't make it seem like there was all of this copious amount of time that everybody has throughout the day. That's something that I can't stand with so many TV shows, is that it's like, yeah, I love what's going on. When are y'all going to work? Like, what class are you guys in? When do you get your homework done? Like,
That's my favorite flaw of Friends. Is like everyone's always like, where
Everyone's
are they
always-
working?
yeah.
And like they even make jokes in the show. They're just like, oh well, like maybe you shouldn't sit in the coffee shop all day.
I love the episode where everyone's trapped in the bathroom because, you know, Ross and Rachel are like having it out, and
Mhm.
after the commercial break, they like start up the episode with Phoebe on the phone, and she's like, "Hey, I need someone to take Mr. Larry at 8 because it's 8:15 and I'm not there." I'm like, I've been there before as a massage therapist. I've been there. Hey, someone needs to take my appointment that started at 8 because
I'm
it's 8:15 and
there.
I'm not there.
And I love that, like, I love that, honestly, I would be that person. I'd be like, wait, I have to stay here and see what happens. Like, I can't just walk out there. Like, what if they hit me? I don't.
At this point, it would just be awkward to walk out. Be like, hey, I felt creepier the longer I stayed there.
Go give a massage now. I'm sorry.
I have work.
Good
Like,
luck.
I really
Good
hope
luck.
this works out, but I gotta
One of you text me how this ends. All right, thank you.
The winner texts me how this ends.
Whoever wins this, let me know. Just call me. We'll talk it out.
All right. Yeah, that was actually my last one. Yeah.
Woo!
The Weekenders was on Disney, but it's not on Disney Plus right now, so I don't know why. So my other 2 honorable mentions, because you had My Life as a Teenage Robot, was Crypto the Super Dog, which they're making a movie for. Yeah, I see your face.
What?
Cartoon Network had a small series of canonically, like in the DC universe, there is a dog that came from Krypton that had a different pod, and he landed and he was adopted by a different family because he like jumped out of the pod and was just like wandering around, and he looked just like a regular dog, so a family adopted him and was like, here you go, son. And eventually the dog was like, hey, I can talk, like I can fly, I have x-ray vision, like he can do everything that Superman can do. And so occasionally, like, Crypto just saves the world, and the only person that knows is like the boy that owns him, but not like the parents or anybody else, like just the boy.
Aww.
Yeah, it's so cute. And then sometimes like Superman, after he catches wind of like a super dog, he like tracks him down and is like, oh, you were supposed to be my puppy when I was a baby. That's so cute, but you have a family here, so I'm not going to take you away from that. But if I ever need you, are you cool with like us joining forces? And Crypto's like, yeah, definitely. Like, I'm down to be whatever kind of good boy I can be. Like, and so there's a movie coming out of Crypto now. It's probably, I think it's coming out either this summer or next summer. But yeah, so excited for that.
Is it a live action or a cartoon?
It's cartoon.
Nice.
Yeah. And the last one was a cartoon that never got made into an actual TV show, but they actually made enough episodes on cartoon for it to have a season. It was called Mina and the Count. And I honestly think that this idea either got like lifted or picked up by Disney. But it originally was on Cartoon Network on their like cartoon or Oh Yeah Cartoons or whatever it was. And it was about a like family that, you know, a couple, they were looking for a babysitter. They wanted to like go out for the evening. And they have this little girl named Mina, and they answer their door, and obviously the person that they hired is a vampire. Like, he's blue, he you know has the accent and the cape and all of that good stuff. And he like walks into the house after he's invited, and he's like, go have a good night, child. And Mina is just like a nightmare. Like, he has the most difficult time just like getting her to try and calm down. She wants to do everything. She's so like full of energy, like, and she knows that he's a vampire, so part of like in a couple of the little shorts you can tell that she's just kind of messing with him. But yeah, and then it after like 7 minutes or whatever, the parents come home and are like, how was she? He's like, it was great. Like, he was beaten into submission by this little girl. It was so great, and I thought that it was an actual TV show. And Oh Yeah Cartoon didn't actually pick it up, but they did have the creators like, we'll kind of try this out, but we don't want to commit to it. So there are like 2, 3, maybe 4 of them that aired that were just sort of like different scenarios of the Count babysitting Mina. So it was so good. I'm sad that it didn't get picked up, but Disney did have their series that was My Babysitter's a Vampire.
Yep.
Which, granted, it was different because it was, you know, like, they were all teenagers.
Yeah.
So it was a little different. They definitely Disney-fied it. It wasn't a cartoon. But yeah, I thought that one was so good. And when I was going through some of the like Oh Yeah cartoons and cartoons that I had seen, I was like, oh my god, I loved Mina and the Count.
I kind of remember that one. But like not enough, you know? Like, I think if I seen it, I would be like, oh my god, yeah, but
oh yeah. But it was legit probably like 7 minutes of your childhood.
yeah, exactly.
So yes.
Yes.
But that's about 10 shows from each of us that hopefully people remembered that they enjoyed when they were kids, or realized that they had never seen before that now they really want to try and find somewhere on the internet. A lot of these shows can be found on HBO. A lot of them can be found on YouTube for free with like slight modulation to the sound. Yeah, I will say that I found Brandy and Mr. Whiskers, and God, the Devil, and Bob, Sheep in the Big City, all on YouTube for free. I haven't found Lloyd or the X's or the Weekenders, but I imagine those are probably somewhere in the YouTube verse. I'm hoping that they bring PB&J Otter on Disney Plus. It looks like they might bring Dave the Barbarian on Disney Plus because a lot of people are searching that apparently.
It's in the vault.
It's in the vault. Mike, Lou, and Og, I know, is on YouTube for free. Xiaolin Showdown, that one's dicey because it's technically, I think, owned by Warner Brothers. So that might mean that it's on HBO. But yeah, we'll see. If any of these are interested to you, if you're watching this on YouTube, I will have everything that we talked about today listed in the information section below. If you are on Twitch, thank you so much for having joined us on Twitch and watching this in person live. I want to go ahead one more time and say that this stream today was brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. If you're listening over on Anchor or Spotify, thank you so much for joining us today. There is a question section below where you can answer what shows did you used to watch that everybody forgot about? Which one of these shows did you remember that you watched that you loved and completely forgot about it? Which one of these shows, or which of all of these shows, do you want to try and track down and watch because you just think that they sound entertaining now? And Miss Alyssa, is there anything else you want to add?
Yes. Well, I know that I'm going to check out some of the shows that you mentioned because I haven't heard of them. So yeah, let us know. And yeah, that's about it. I'm
That's about
Alyssa Markle, and you should definitely check me and Patrick out on our social medias. I think I'm Alyssa Markle everywhere.
Yeah, I think at this point you're now Alyssa Markell or the Alyssa Markell on every
The girl named
platform.
Markle. Yep.
The girl named Markell. Yep.
Yep.
I am PatchrickPlayer1. Patrick spelled PatchrickPlayer, player, and then the number 1. I'm that on pretty much all platforms. If you want to watch the show live, then join us over on Twitch every Thursday. You can join us either at PatchrickPlayer1 or at Alyssa Markell. If you want to see the refined version of the show visually, they are on both of our YouTube channels, which once again is PatchrickPlayer1 or Alyssa Markell.
Alyssa Markle.
And if you are watching this and would like to hear the refined down version of them, then feel free to check us out on Anchor, Spotify, and hopefully soon wherever you get your podcasts. Also, feel free to leave us a rating, a like, a comment on any and all of these platforms. It really helps us out. Don't quite know how, but I know that someone somewhere at a desk is looking at how many ratings, reviews, likes, and comments we have. So,
and we will respond.
And we will respond. Or at least I will. Alyssa's blind, but
I will respond if I see it.
Doesn't bode well for a blind woman. If I see it. That's a good rejection right there.
If I find it.
Have you ever used that on a date before? Like, why haven't you responded to me? I couldn't see the message.
I do that to people. Never on. What is a date? Never been on one.
Oh my god. All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will see you all next week. Bye.